of the second chapter is Indian economy from 1950 to 1990. So in the previous chapter we have studied about the Indian economy at the eve of independence. In the previous chapters we have discussed about the conditions of agriculture, the condition of industrial sectors or trade, along with demographic conditions of the country. In this chapter again we will discuss about the agricultural positions, industrial positions and related to trade. Okay, so this is the first I am going to discuss regarding the agriculture. So before going to agriculture, first of all you should know what is economy and what kinds of economy. So all those places where economical activities is done, that is known as economy. So in this world the economy is divided into three parts on the basis of working a structure. So first, that is the market economy. It is known as also capitalistic economy. So what is capitalistic economy? The economy which is run by market forces such as demand and supply, it is known as market economy. It is also known as free economy. Its main principal objective is to earn maximum profit. In this economy, there is no any direct intervention of the government. Here, central problems such as what to produce, how to produce and for whom to produce, okay, is solved through the price mechanism. So price mechanism means on the basis of demand and supply. It contains a vast competition among themselves because everyone wants to earn maximum profit. It always overlooks social interest, means they have no any relation regarding the social welfare. That's why it is told that it always overlooks social interest. Now the second kind of economy, that is known as centrally planned economy. Centrally planned economy means that is the socialism. It is a kind of economy where economic activities are regulated through government. So if it is regulated by the government, it means its principal objective is social welfare. The government plays an active role in the process of production. Central problems such as what to produce, how to produce and for whom to produce are solved through the planning mechanism. Such economy does not have any kind of competition among themselves. It always ignores consumers' sovereignty because here whatever the government will produce, the consumer will utilize for their own life, okay, or for the survival of the life. Now come to the third, that is known as mixed economy. So it is a kind of economy where government and market forces work together. Government works for social welfare, whereas private sectors always tries to earn maximum profit. Here there is a partial control in the private sectors but full control of government in public sectors. Here just I want to give you one example. India will come under the mixed economy because here the private and public sectors are working together. You can take the example, Tata Steel will come under the private sector, whereas Steel Authority of India, whereas Bokaro Steel Plant, Durgapur Steel Plant, that is known as SAIL. So it will come under the private public sectors. So central problems are solved by both price mechanism along with planning mechanism. Competition exists, no doubt, here the competition exists, but only in private sectors. It ensures consumer sovereignty because public sector and private sectors undertake might show inefficiency. As a result, corruption may take place. So here that is the one important term. It ensures consumer sovereignty because private sectors are working here. Is it clear? So in this way we have discussed about the three kinds of economy. Regarding capitalistic economy, you can take the example of USA, United States of America, and if you want to know, is it possible that socialistic economy? Of course, the answer will be yes. China will come under the socialistic economy. I hope you will be able to understand the different kinds of economy. We have already learned about the different kinds of economy. Now every economy wants to grow, and for growing they always try to make its own policy, and that is known as objectives of planning. So planning may be the two types. One is known as short-term planning and other is known as long-term planning. So here in this video I am going to discuss about the long-term planning, okay, and that is also known as long period objectives of planning. So first, that is growth or increase in GDP. So in macroeconomics, we have discussed already GDP, gross domestic products, means it is the total output of a country which can be accumulated from the three sectors, primary, secondary and tertiary sectors, within a 1 year. So we are not going to discuss about the GDP. Now we are going to discuss how the GDP will increase in the economy. So economic growth is the primary objectives of every economic planning. Growth means to increase in the country's capacity to produce the amount of goods and services within the country. The GDP of a country is derived from the different sectors of the economy such as agriculture, industries and service sector. In some countries, growth in agriculture contributes more to GDP, while in some countries the growth in the service sectors contributes more to GDP. In our country, after new economic planning, means after 1991, the contribution of service sector to GDP increased up to 42%. Before 1990, the share of agriculture to GDP was more than 50% because there was the main source of income. Most of the people were engaged in agriculture. All the industrial sector and the service sector was not well developed, so all the people were engaged, or most of the people were engaged in agriculture. Now the second objective is modernization. It means change in social outlook and cultural life of people by the use of capital and machinery. So modernization means change in outlook. In other words, we can say a shift in the sectoral composition of production, diversification of activities, and advancement of technology and institutional innovations. So, to increase the production of goods and services, the producer have to adopt new technology. For example, factory can increase output by using new type of machines, by implementing new technology, etc. Whereas a farmer can increase the maximum output by using fertilizers, pesticides, high yielding variety of seeds, better irrigations, and so on. So, due to modernization, social outlook such as recognition of women have the same right, recognition of women have the also same rights as men. A modern uh, system has started to use the talent of women in different places such as banks, schools, hospitals, factories, etc. It helps the society to be prosperous. So overall we can say due to the modernization even the society has changed. Initially our society was uh, famous for male dominated, but nowadays uh, both male and females are working together. Due to that the demand for the women has also increased, basically in service sectors. Third point now come, that is the self-reliance. Self-reliance means 100% dependent on itself or himself. So it means not dependent on external help. In other words, we can say not the interference of foreign countries in the area of food supply, capital investment and debts. Here, a nation can promote economic growth and modernization by using its own resources. Our country always tried to avoid imports of those goods which could be produced in India itself. So, due to the green revolutions, now we are self-reliance in the production of food grains. Now come to the next, that is the full employment. It is a situation when everyone who is able and willing to work at the market wage rate is working. In other words, we can say full employment is a situation where aggregate demand is always equals to aggregate supply. It also shows higher rate of active participation of the working age group. It helps to reduce poverty and to increase economic growth of the country. Is it clear? So, if more employment will be generated, now what will happen? A prosperous life will come among all the group of the people. That's why our next point is equity. Equity means uh, equal rights, equal social justice, etc. So equity means to promote social justice. It can be done by improving a standard of life, living of weaker sections of the society. Equity also explains reduction in regional inequalities and redistribution of income. Growth, modernization, and self reliance is not capable to change the life of all the people. So, to ensure the benefit of economic prosperity, uh, we must reach to the poor sections as well. If the government will not take a step, only the rich will enjoy. As a result, we can't say that we are moving towards the development. So, in this way, economic planning was set how to get a defined target within a specific period of time. So, these were the objectives of economic planning, and it was introduced only to achieve all these goals so that our country may be considered as a developed countries. Okay, thank you.